Hi, my name is Chisholm Makwani. I'm a record producer. My parents think I'm gonna grow up and be a doctor, and that's. Let's not talk about that right now. My dad and my mom, they both grew up in Nigeria. My dad he went to school to be a physician, so he's a physician right now in the U.S. And my mom is a CPA. She actually had a training in Mississippi. But both of my parents, they grew up in the eastern part of Nigeria in Nambra State. And my dad had actually grown up in a house that was the size of this room, preferably, probably even smaller. And he had like 30 family members living with him. And he kind of had like a really rough childhood growing up, so he had like a lot of passion to like come from Nigeria to America to give us like better opportunities, just as to be something when we grow up. Because he never wanted us to suffer like he did, and he tells me all the time he has like all these crazy stories. And my mom is the same way. Like they both got married in Nigeria, and they moved to Nigeria or America. I'm sorry, in the 90s. And my mom and dad always tell me stories about how they're like, oh, they had to like work in Harlem and all this and stuff like that. So my dad had kind of like seen a lot growing up, and he wanted everyone in the family to grow up and just be doctors and never have to deal with like any of the struggles they grew up with. So my dad, when we were growing up, he was like super super just like, you're gonna be a doctor or you're gonna be nothing. And I remember like every year, like we would have like a meeting, and he would like talk to us. He's like, how you like school, what's going on, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember like all like my brothers like, oh, I want to be like this, I want to be this. And my dad's like, no, you're not gonna be this, you're gonna be a doctor and nothing else. So it's just kind of been like that way ever since like I can remember. And it's not a bad thing in the sense that he just cares about us a lot. He wants us to be successful when we grow up, but it also like leaves you like a lot of like room to like not think about stuff. So it's tough because sometimes I'll grow up and I'll be like, okay, like I'm not gonna be a doctor like in the eyes of my dad or my mom. It's just like, what am I doing with my life where I could have something prestigious. And there's a little extra more pressure in the sense that my sister is already in med school right now. So coming from Nigeria to America and then fighting to get here and then going through the education system and then thinking it's not gonna happen when you have like someone that's already in like the medical program. Your parents kind of see that as like, okay, yes, like one, there's like validation for what we're doing, but two, like also like it's possible for this to happen, and what we're doing is working in that sense. So it all kind of just builds up and like comes at you in a sense. Growing up, my parents were like super strict. So right off the bat, my dad and my mom were always just like, don't leave the house ever. You know what I mean? Just because they were like, so what happened was there was like a lot of stuff going on during like the 2000s. We had like all like child kidnappings and stuff like that. So my parents just got like so like conservative. I couldn't answer the door for anyone, not the mailman, not anything like that. And from there, I just kind of branched off. My parents were just like, no, you need to be inside. You need to just be focused on your schoolwork. You just never need to leave, right? So growing up, I really never got the chance to like hang out with people so much as like I wanted to. And most of the time, like I was like a pretty like shy kid growing up, so I didn't really have like a friend base. So I would actually spend most of my time on the internet, and from like the internet, I would like discover like a lot of music, and that's kind of where I like found my outlet. When I first started, I didn't necessarily think about it as like I'm gonna turn this into profit. I'm gonna do this for like a living. I just thought like it's gonna be like really cool. I just want to learn how to be a record producer, and it's tough, especially like nowadays, because when you're like a black male and you tell people like I want to be a record producer and I want to like do hip hop, that you already get like put in a box. So the toughest, I guess, thing was to fight my way out of all of those stereotypes, because I knew from the start that I was like, hey, I need to like take this professionally. I need to do this seriously. I need to have a tutor. I need to have someone who's like adept in what's going on. And it's tough when you go to like music teachers, who are like, most of the time they're like, white demographically, or let's just say like they're trained classically, or in that sense. Or you go to, for example, you go to ATEC and you talk to some of the advisors or someone like that, and you try to convey your like dream or passion to someone. They're just like, are you serious? Like, what is this going on right now? You know what I mean? They just can't relate. Sense. So it teaches you a lot. I guess the one thing I've learned from this whole entire process was like how to be like self proficient in that sense. So it got to a point where I was just like, you know what, all right, fuck it. Like if no one's gonna teach me, like I'm just gonna teach myself. I actually spent like the entire summer in my room with just like YouTube videos and Google and just like a keyboard that I'd gotten for my birthday. And my dad was like, why are you getting this keyboard? And I was like, Dad, I want to learn how to piano again. He had no idea I was doing music production. He was just like, if I told him, he'd be like, all right, like get that out of here. Like Get that sass out of here. I don't want that. My dad is super, super old school. I was talking to him one time, and I had said, I was agreeing with him, and I said, it's cool, Dad. And he, like, looked at me in the face, and he's like, don't ever use that type of slang with me again. So it's just, like, a whole, like, another level with that. And I think another big problem with starting up was I had to, like, hide it from a lot of people, because a lot of the people that I had grown up with, they had like seen me as like, okay, he's gonna go pre-med, he's gonna do this, like he's not like messing around and stuff like that, and it's really tough to like kind of like convey yourself like that you're serious when you're going back to like you're in 3 boxes and you actually want to take it somewhere, and you have to like fight out of those 3 boxes to like actually prove yourself to people. I think I give myself like a lot of credit in the sense that like I'm a pretty like nice kid. I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I don't do anything like that. I keep to myself. It's just like my parents like raised me to like in that sense, like, you know, don't ruin your life or do anything that can ruin your life and stuff like that. So I'm pretty self-aware in that sense that like I think the one thing I kind of hate and I kind of realize that like I really dislike is when I have like doors closed, in a sense of like opportunities closed for me. So I was very careful the way I handled my business, in the sense that like I didn't let certain people know what was going on. I remember like when I was at home, because I go home for the summers, I did most of my production like at night when my parents were sleeping, or I did most of my production when my parents weren't at home, because they work a lot. They work like 9 to 5. So I remember like waking up and like waiting for my parents to like waiting for the garage door to like close, and as soon as the garage door closed, I'd be like, okay, all right, time to, you know, start making beats. And I'd make beats. And it's really tough when you have something you're really passionate about, and it's just like it makes you like feel like an outcast in the sense that you can't like really be yourself. So I think it was a really tough time, but I think the best thing that kind of like helped me in that situation was that I told the right people, and I didn't tell the right people, in a sense. So I started making music, and I realized, okay, I need to like meet people who are kind of like me in the same passionate way. And I remember becoming like so discouraged, because I would like go out and I'd go find people that, you know, that would want to do music. And you always know when you do something, like you can always like look someone in the eyes, and like, you know, within the first 30 seconds you'll know if they're like really like with it or they're like not with it. Yeah, so I think it started turning into like, I guess like a career, in a sense, when I started producing for a friend that I had met through a mutual friend at a Childish Gambino concert. And so I was so ecstatic. I was like, oh yes, this is like finally going somewhere. Like there's someone who's like actually not, you know, like just some high schooler in his closet doing something. And I'd love to just like work with these guys. I think the number one thing I was kind of looking at the time was, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn how to actually like work in the real world, like putting an album together and stuff like that. I started to like, I guess, develop my own idea of like, this could probably like, you know, turn into something like career wise, where I saw like my friends who own their creative design company like go from like in the time of 3 to 6 months from working in their garage like designing and stuff like that to actually moving to Dallas and getting their own place. And I had like a lot of crazy things happen within those 3 to 6 months. I had like my best friend's older brother had actually got into like med school like at Southwestern, like just because the kid was smart. He had like 4.0 and all these things, and he just like threw it all away to actually go to NYU or New York City and like become a comedian. And everyone was sitting there like, oh fuck, like this kid just gave up his whole future like for something that's maybe not gonna happen, you know what I mean? And I had actually seen him like actually out there like doing shows and like, you know, getting better, not like the greatest opportunities, but like getting progressively better. So it kind of like formulated my idea in my mind that, okay, this can maybe be something. It's like, what do I need to start doing this? So I started investing in myself. So I got a second job. I didn't tell my parents, and it was like really awkward because the way my parents had found out that I got the second job was I was a farm tech, and my dad is a doctor. So I was working at the pharmacy, and they were like calling in prescriptions from my dad that he had like sent in. Like he had sent in prescriptions to like be filled at that pharmacy. And the pharmacist like working there was like, hey, who is this guy? He has the same last name as you. And I was like, shit, it's my dad. My dad's a doctor. And he's like, oh, really? Your dad's a doctor? Oh. And he like picks up the phone because he had to like correct something on the actual prescription. and he's talking to my dad, and he's like, "Hey, did you know your son is that?" I'm just sitting there like, "All right, like seriously, like this is like really going on right now? Like, did you really?" And my dad was like, "What's going on? Like, why are you working this? You need to quit this job." And I quit the job. And 3 months later, I was sitting there. I was like, "All right, so I can't get a job." And it got really progressively harder as I went on, because I was like, "Okay, I need to actually get a job where like that fits what I'm qualified to do. My parents can't find out what I'm doing at all." So I ended up getting a job at the student health center at the school, because my parents, they wouldn't know I ever worked there and stuff like that, and it was very like remote into itself. But over time, I was getting jobs. I was getting all these jobs, and I was making more time to do like stuff like this. My parents got like a little more like, "Hey, what is he doing? What's going on?" And it led me to like actually like stop coming home less. I had to like come up with more alibis than I needed to. I got to the point where I needed to like get a second PO box, because I started getting like stuff shipped in from like Amazon, like acoustic paneling and stuff like that. And my parents would just see all these like packages outside in my house, and my dad like one day just saw me with a package like I had, and he was like, "What is that?" And it was like a bunch of sound panels, and I had to sit there and I had to lie to him for like 15 minutes about how like I had bought these like sound panels because I was like actually in a sound like research lab, and I was doing it to like get research credit for like going to med school. And my dad was like, "Okay, I know you're lying to me, but just leave," and stuff like that. And I think like right now where I am in my life is becoming to that decision where it's just like, okay, like you can't. I wanted to like grow up, and I wanted to like be a producer, and I wanted to grow up and I wanted to be like a doctor. Like I wanted to be a producer doctor, in the sense just like I wanted to walk that path that would like make my parents happy, and then also like make myself happy. And I think like we're getting to a crossroad where it's like kind of like conflicting. It's like I don't think it's ever healthy for someone to like ever like kind of like hide like two things, or like feel like they can't like be themselves and stuff like that. So I think most definitely it's getting to a point where I have to like tell my parents like what's going on. Like I mean I've as I progress down pre med, like people don't realize pre med's like actually like you gotta like be on point with it like all the time. You can't just be like, I'm just gonna do it like Monday, Wednesday, and then forget about it for the rest of the week. Like it all built off each other. So I remember I'd come back from the summer, because the summer I had like spent like just doing like just music 24/7. I forgot like everything science related, and I came into my next science class, and I was just like so like taken aback. Like I had just like so was so behind. Like all my like pre med friends had like told me like their summer plans. They had like done research. They had like done this. They had like taken classes to get ahead. They had done this. I was sitting there like so like behind, like we were in OChem, and he's explaining all this stuff, and I was just like felt like he was like talking like Spanish to me, like it was ridiculous. But I had like all this like music knowledge, and I kind of like realized then it's like, all right, like Chisholm, like you're just lying to yourself right now. Like you can't like do both, whether you like want to or not. This is the time you have to decide. Going back to like my parents, like I think it's gonna be like really really crazy. So my dad's like the type of person where it's just like if you lie to him, or you just like kind of dodge him, or like don't let him know what's going on, then he just like starts World War III. We've kind of like gotten like little like small like bouts about it, and he's kind of like gotten like little hints from time to time, like, hey, maybe this kid doesn't want to do medicine. So I think we're at the point right now with like both my parents where it's just like they know what's going on. They just like waiting for me to like kind of come out and talk about it. And I honestly hope that like it's not like all hell goes loose. It's not like a matter of like not going to med school. I just think it's kind of like, nah, I have this producer thing going on, and I feel like I need to figure out what I want to do, and kind of like where I need to get there, because I'm a fan. I'm a very avid person of like education and getting a degree and stuff like that. But I think my parents know I'm a rational kid. I just think sometimes we butt heads in that sense, but I think they always kind of like trusting me to like have the right mindset about what's going on, and I think one day they'll understand what's going on and kind of respect me for it and let me be me.